Hello and welcome. Live from New Delhi, you're watching DD India News Hour, India's voice to the world. I'm Gautam Roy, and coming up over the next hour. India and Malaysia elevate ties to comprehensive strategic partnership. Both the nations sign multiple pacts. Trade, investment and defence remain key focus areas. India and Japan hold their third 2+2 dialogue in New Delhi. Security challenges and avenues for enhanced collaboration top the agenda of the meeting. India's Prime Minister Narendra Modi to embark on an official visit to Poland and Ukraine starting Wednesday. This is the first visit by an Indian PM to Warsaw in 45 years and the first ever to Ukraine. And Russian state agency TASS says over 122,000 people have fled Kursk due to Ukraine's assault, but Russia has made gains in eastern Ukraine. Malaysian Prime Minister Anwar Ibrahim, who is on a 3-day visit to India, held talks with Prime Minister Narendra Modi on Tuesday. Both the leaders discussed enhancing ties across various domains of partnership and explored new areas of collaboration. Multiple pacts have been inked as a result, and the overall relationship has also been elevated. DD India's Tapas Bhattacharya reports.
India and Malaysia ties are at a new high as both nations elevate their relations to a comprehensive strategic partnership. This visit marks a significant milestone in enhancing the strategic partnership between India and Malaysia, focusing on boosting trade, investment and regional cooperation.
Semiconductor, fintech, रक्षा उद्योग, AI और क्वांटम में हमें आपसी सहयोग बढ़ाना चाहिए। हमने भारत और मलेशिया के बीच कॉम्प्रिहेंसिव इकोनॉमिक कोऑपरेशन एग्रीमेंट के रिव्यू में गति लाने पर बल दिया है। डिजिटल टेक्नोलॉजी में सहयोग के लिए डिजिटल काउंसिल की स्थापना करने का और स्टार्टअप अलायंस बनाने का निर्णय लिया है। भारत के यूपीआई और मलेशिया के पे नेट को जोड़ने के लिए भी काम किया जाएगा।
Malaysian Prime Minister Anwar held bilateral talks with Indian counterpart Prime Minister Narendra Modi.
भारत आसियान सेंट्रलिटी को प्राथमिकता देता है। हम सहमत हैं कि भारत और आसियान के बीच एफटीए की समीक्षा को समयबद्ध तरीके से पूरा करना चाहिए। 2025 में मलेशिया की सफल आसियान अध्यक्षता के लिए भारत पूरा समर्थन देगा।
The discussions span a broad range of global and regional topics.
We have agreed to enhance further and make it a comprehensive strategic partnership. Yes, Malaysia and India from the days of Jawaharlal Nehru and Tunku Abdul Rahman has established good relations. But we realize under our generation that this must be further strengthened in a multitude of areas.
Several key MOUs were signed during this visit, further solidifying the relationship. These include an MOU on the recruitment, employment and repatriation of workers, a memorandum on cooperation in the field of Ayurveda and traditional medicine, an agreement on digital technologies, collaboration, a program of cooperation in culture, arts and heritage, an MOU on tourism cooperation, a partnership between the youth and sports ministries of both countries, an agreement on public administration and governance reforms, a cooperation pact between the International Financial Services Authority of India and Malaysia's Labuan Financial Services Authority. Additionally, the 9th India-Malaysia CEO Forum convened on August 19, showcasing vibrant business ties and identifying new opportunities for collaboration. The visit underscores the historical, cultural and economic linkages between India and Malaysia and is expected to lay the foundation for deeper multi-sectoral cooperation, further strengthening the strategic partnership and paving the way for a prosperous future for both countries. Tapas Bhattacharya's report, DD India.
And earlier in the day, Prime Minister Modi received his Malaysian counterpart Anwar Ibrahim when he arrived at Rashtrapati Bhavan or President's House in New Delhi for the ceremonial welcome. This is the first visit of Prime Minister Ibrahim to India as Malaysia's Prime Minister. Following the ceremonial reception, the visiting Prime Minister of Malaysia proceeded to the Mahatma Gandhi Memorial. This is at Rajghat and he laid a wreath there, as you can see. He also signed the visitor's book at Rajghat. And speaking with the media about Malaysian Prime Minister Anwar Ibrahim's visit, Secretary in the Ministry of External Affairs Jaideep Majumdar said it assumes special significance as the two nations will complete a decade of strategic relations next year.
This is the first visit of Prime Minister Ibrahim to India as Prime Minister, and it assumes significance. Firstly, because it is his first visit as Prime Minister since he took over in end of 2022. Secondly, also the fact that we are nearly approaching 10 years of our enhanced strategic partnership with Malaysia, which was announced when Prime Minister Shri Narendra Modi ji had visited Malaysia in 2015.
During the same press meet, MEA Secretary highlighted the importance of a memorandum of understanding signed between the two countries today.
There were several important agreements that were signed during this time. An important area is in the recruitment, employment and repatriation of workers. Another MOU that was signed was in the area of public administration and governance reform. A third on digital technologies, one on cultural cooperation, an agreement on tourism promotion.
And later, the visiting Malaysian Prime Minister Anwar Ibrahim called on India's President Draupadi Murmu at India's presidential palace, which is Rashtrapati Bhavan in New Delhi. Ibrahim held talks with President Murmu to strengthen the historical and socio-cultural linkages. Malaysia's PM is on a state visit, like we've mentioned, to India. And we'll be talking about this key Malaysian state visit later on in the show as well with our expert guest. But let's move on for the time being. In a pivotal move to strengthen regional security and cooperation, India and Japan have further solidified their strategic partnership. The two nations held the third India-Japan 2+2 dialogue in New Delhi, where foreign and defence ministers from both the sides convened to discuss pressing security challenges and explore avenues for enhanced collaboration. Our next report has the details.
In a significant move to bolster bilateral defence and security cooperation, India hosted its Japanese counterparts for the third India-Japan 2+2 dialogue. Foreign Minister Dr. S. Jaishankar and Defence Minister Rajnath Singh welcomed their Japanese counterparts Yoko Kamikawa and Minoru Kihara for the high-level meeting.
In the last decade, our relationship has assumed the form of a special strategic and global partnership. The logic of this evolution is our expanding interests and growing activities. As we both step forward into a more volatile and unpredictable world, there is a need for reliable partners with whom there are substantial convergences.
This year marks the 10th anniversary of the launch of the Special Strategic and Global Partnership between Japan and India. This is indeed a milestone year. At this 2+2 meeting, I hope to engage in discussions that will lead us towards further strengthening of security and defense cooperation between our two countries.
The dialogue focused on reviewing the evolving security landscape in Indo-Pacific region. Both the sides expressed a shared commitment to strengthening their strategic partnership and exploring avenues for enhanced cooperation. Ministers exchanged views on regional and global issues, emphasizing the importance of upholding democratic values and the rule of law. India and Japan have a long-standing special strategic and global partnership rooted in their shared principles. The visit is expected to further deepen defence ties and reinforce the strong bond between the two countries. India maintains the 2+2 ministerial format of dialogue with a select group of nations, including the United States, Australia and Russia. Bureau Report, DD India.
After the 2+2 dialogue, India and Japan held a press meet in Delhi. India's Defence Minister Rajnath Singh said that he discussed the mutual and bilateral issues during the dialogue.
आज हमारी डिस्कशन के दौरान हमने म्यूचुअल इंटरेस्ट के बाइलेटरल और रीजनल इश्यूज के बारे में चर्चा की है। इंडो पैसिफिक रीजन में दो महत्वपूर्ण स्टेक होल्डर्स होने के नाते इंडिया और जापान कई मायनों में इस क्षेत्र के महत्वपूर्ण प्रहरी हैं। इसलिए यह पार्टनरशिप इंडो पैसिफिक रीजन में पीस और स्टेबिलिटी के लिए बेहद महत्वपूर्ण है।
India's External Affairs Minister Dr. S. Shankar said both nations discussed the new avenues for technology and industrial cooperation.
A free, open and rules-based Indo-Pacific is the top priority for both our countries. We explored the possibility of coordinating our respective security and development assistance where our interests converge. We discussed the unfolding new avenues for technology, research and industrial cooperation between us as well. The growth of technology also necessitates human resource cooperation, semiconductors being a very good example.
And still to come on DD India News Hour. Uncertainty looms over Gaza ceasefire deal, with Blinken crisscrossing the region in his latest visit. Presidential campaigns gain pace in the US with the Democratic National Convention on its second day.
The World Wildlife Organization tells us that over 3 billion people across the globe rely on seafood. There are efforts being made to preserve our marine ecosystem. So let's dive right in.
The course of the river was getting shrinked in the upstream areas. And when there is no freshwater flow, the river Ichamoti only survives in the downstream areas, and it has become, in our terminology, we call it a tidal inlet.
Habitat from so many places in the world, and people didn't even know that it had happened.
Mussels that live at the bottom of the lake have this large effect on the biology of the entire lake.
This is the poster that we provide to people on our fish walks. So they can just look at this and identify which are the fish in season, and when we give them the test to go out and identify sustainable fish.
It's worrying because rising temperatures cause the water to expand, and with it, the sea level to rise.
Welcome back. You're watching DD India News Hour. I'm Gautam Roy. Now, India's Prime Minister Narendra Modi embarks on a 2-day visit to Poland on Wednesday. This visit marks the 7 decades of diplomatic relations between the two countries. This would be the first visit by any Indian Prime Minister to Poland in 45 years. DD India's Vishal Baristo reports.
Soldiers preparing to give a ceremonial guard of honor to India's Prime Minister Narendra Modi in the Polish capital, Warsaw. The Indian Prime Minister is set to pay his respects at the tomb of the unknown soldier during his Poland visit. Polish youth are looking forward to this top-level visit from India.
I think it's great. I think it's always good to have intercontinental friendships. It's good to have friends from other countries, to meet other cultures and things like that, yeah.
I think they have a very interesting culture.
I think that it's very helpful for both sides, and I think we should continue this tradition and help each other.
During his visit, Prime Minister Modi will be meeting the President and Prime Minister of Poland. The Indian PM is leading a high-level delegation to Warsaw.
It is an extremely important, historic, landmark visit. That's how important it is. You said it just now yourself. This will be the first visit by an Indian Prime Minister in over 40 years. And plus, you must have felt yourself that there is a certain excitement that's built up already in the Polish media. You know, all the electronic and print media has covered it. Page 1 today. The visit was announced yesterday. And in the Polish government also, there is great interest and great happiness that PM Modi has chosen to come here.
Poland has a strong presence in the Indian diaspora. The Indian community has made key contributions in Poland's economic development. At $6 billion, Poland is the largest trading partner of India in Central Europe. Apart from diplomatic ties, India and Poland also share relations that go back to the days of World War II. Around 5,000 Polish refugees were given shelter by two principalities of Kolhapur and Jamnagar. Prime Minister Modi would offer floral tributes at both memorials raised in Warsaw. The Indian leader would also be interacting with the staff and students of the Maharaja School, which is run by the Principality of Jamnagar. Prime Minister Modi would also address the Indian diaspora on this occasion.
On his two-day visit to Poland, Prime Minister Narendra Modi would be leading a high-level delegation to discuss the socio-economic and political issues between India and Poland. He would be meeting the President and Prime Minister of the country and would also address the Indian diaspora. After his visit in Warsaw, he would go to Ukraine, the visit that the whole world is watching. With cameraman Sanjeev in Warsaw, this is Vishal Baristo for DD India.
So Prime Minister Modi will be in Poland for 2 days and then of course in Kyiv as well. Now this visit to Poland takes place on the 70th anniversary of the establishment of diplomatic relations between Poland and India. DD India's Vishal Baristo finds out more with the Indian ambassador in Poland, Nagma Mohammed Malik, about this visit.
The wait is finally over after 4 decades. Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi would be coming to Poland, and this would be the first visit by any Indian Prime Minister in the last more than 40 years. I have with me the Indian ambassador to Poland, Ms. Nagma Mohammed Malik. Let's talk to her and find out, Ms. Malik, how important is this visit of the Prime Minister, because it's been a long wait?
It is an extremely important, historic, landmark visit. That's how important it is. You said it just now yourself. This will be the first visit by an Indian Prime Minister in over 40 years. And plus, you must have felt yourself that there is a certain excitement that's built up already in the Polish media. You know, all the electronic and print media has covered it. Page 1 today. The visit was announced yesterday. And in the Polish government also, there is great interest and great happiness that PM Modi has chosen to come here.
When we talk about Poland, which is the largest trading partner in the Central Europe, and we have a large population of Indian diaspora, how important is it for that segment of the society?
Well, you know, I think you can see, and we will see more tomorrow after PM arrives and he addresses the Indian community, just how excited the community is about this visit and, you know, how much they're looking forward to it as much as we are. The Indian community in Poland is approximately of the strength of 25,000 or so, of which 5,000 are students. Then we have the other the employees, and they would be about, you know, half and half between white-collar professionals, IT, financial services, managerial service, you know, levels, and they're very well respected for their skills here by the Polish government, employers, people. And then we have the Indian skilled workers like welders and mechanics who are also considered very valuable in the big construction projects here.
When we talk about India and Poland, the bilateral trade, where does it stand? And are we expecting any MOUs to be signed, because this is going to be a long-awaited visit?
The bilateral trade turnover between our two countries is a healthy and growing $6 billion worth, the quantum. The balance of trade is very much in favor of India. It is a diversified trade. There are machinery, machine tools, garments, pharmaceuticals, chemicals that we export to Poland. From Poland, we import also other kinds of machinery, other kinds of chemicals.
So there you heard from the ambassador, it is going to be a very interesting two-day visit of Prime Minister Narendra Modi. And India definitely has a long relationship with Poland from the era of Vedas, Upanishads, Sanskrit and Operation Ganga. With cameraman Shiva, this is Vishal Baristu for DD India, Warsaw.
Now moving on, as the conflict escalates, Russia has targeted multiple Ukrainian regions amid intense battles in Kursk and Belgorod in the Russian region. Moscow's forces have released footage of destroyed Ukrainian vehicles, while over 122,000 have fled Kursk due to Ukrainian assault. Ukraine's President Volodymyr Zelensky has described the situation in the eastern region as difficult.
As fighting rages on in Kursk and Belgorod region, Russia hit 9 targets in the center, north and south of Ukraine. Moscow has continued airstrikes since Ukrainian forces began an incursion into Russia's Kursk region. Russian Defense Ministry released a video showing the aftermath of the firefight in the Kursk region, in which a number of Ukrainian military vehicles were destroyed by a unit of Russian Marines. Russian state agency TASS has stated that over 122,000 people have fled Kursk due to Ukraine's assault. Intense fighting has been reported from Toretsk and Pokrovsk in eastern Ukraine, where Moscow is gaining ground against embattled Ukrainian forces. Zelensky has described the situation in eastern front line very difficult.
Army Chief Sarskei reported to me regarding the situation at the front, the defense efforts in the Pokrovsk and Toretsk sections. It's a difficult situation, but the guys are doing everything to destroy the occupier. The Army Chief also updated me on the Kursk section. We achieve our goals, and the priority, as before, is the replenishment of the exchange stock for Ukraine.
In a related development, Russia has summoned a senior US diplomat and protested over what it called the provocative actions of American journalists reporting from Russia's Kursk region. Syed Hassan's report for DD India.
And despite US Secretary of State Antony Blinken's positive remarks on proposed ceasefire deal between Hamas and Israel, both parties have expressed difficulties in negotiating the deal. During his West Asia tour, Blinken on Tuesday met with Egyptian President al-Sisi to discuss a new Gaza ceasefire proposal. Meanwhile, the humanitarian crisis in Gaza and regional tensions continue to escalate.
Despite expressions of optimism from the US officials and the Israeli Prime Minister's office describing the meeting between Antony Blinken and Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu as positive, both Israel and Hamas have indicated that reaching a ceasefire deal will be difficult. On the second day of his West Asia visit, US Secretary of State Antony Blinken met with Egyptian President Abdel Fattah al-Sisi in Al Alamein. They discussed the new Gaza ceasefire proposal presented by Washington. However, the details of the proposal and the reactions from various stakeholders remain fluid. In a related development, Israel's Prime Minister's office confirmed on Tuesday that the bodies of 6 hostages have been retrieved from Khan Yunis in southern Gaza. The Israeli Hostages Families Forum is urging the government to finalize a deal with Hamas to recover their loved ones. The humanitarian situation in Gaza continues to worsen. Earlier on Tuesday, an Israeli airstrike on a school housing displaced Palestinians resulted in the death of 10 people. Civil defense workers and volunteers were seen sifting through the rubble of Mustafa Hafez School, located west of Gaza City, searching for survivors and casualties. Tensions are also rising along the Israel-Lebanon border. A cycle of tit-for-tat strikes between Israel and Hezbollah is exacerbating regional instability. Israel has released footage showing its military targeting Hezbollah's infrastructure across Lebanon, including a recent strike on an arms depot in the Bekaa Valley. Several weapons storage sites were also hit. Secretary Blinken's visit and the ongoing conflict in the region highlight the urgent need for diplomatic solutions to this Israel-Gaza conflict. Bureau Report, DD India.
Barack and Michelle Obama are the star speakers on day 2 of the Democratic National Convention in Chicago after US President Joe Biden's emotional opening night address to the gathering. Meanwhile, Republican nominees Donald Trump and J.D. Vance are hitting separate battleground states with the message that the Democrats are soft on crime. Our Washington correspondent Jagruti Dave has sent us this roundup of the US election campaigns.
Monday night was a bittersweet affair at the DNC in Chicago. The crowd carrying "We Heart Joe" signs listened to President Biden proudly recount his achievements in office, take aim at Donald Trump and then pass the mantle on to his vice president. The spotlight is now fully on Kamala Harris, and she's being cheered on by Democratic heavyweights Barack and Michelle Obama, who are taking to the stage later today. And while Harris and her running mate Tim Walz are soaking up the attention, they're also focusing on taking the fight to the Republicans. Not only are the duo making a quick trip to Chicago's neighbour Wisconsin, a crucial battleground state, but, according to the New York Times, Harris is also planning to speak at the exact same venue that Donald Trump accepted the Republican nomination for president. And remember, Trump won Wisconsin in 2016, but lost it in 2020. And it was the same story in Michigan, where Donald Trump is campaigning today. His running mate J.D. Vance will be in Kenosha, Wisconsin, and their game plan is to attack the Democrats on their record on crime and try and take away some of the limelight from the DNC in Chicago. Jagruti Dave in Washington, reporting for DD India.
Let's now take a look at some other stories making news around the world. India has allowed Nepal to export an additional 351 megawatts of power exports to the country. For the first time, Nepal would be exporting power to Bihar through a medium-term power sales agreement. This takes the total allowed quantum from 690 megawatts from 16 hydropower projects to 941 megawatts from 28 hydropower projects. The first 1-point coins with King Charles III's portrait have entered circulation across the UK this week, as confirmed by the Royal Mint. Nearly 3 million coins will be distributed via post offices and banks. The coins also feature an imprint of British bees, part of new designs supporting species conservation. The first supermoon of 2024 rose over Paris on Monday night, casting a glow over the iconic Eiffel Tower. A supermoon is a celestial event where the moon appears noticeably larger than usual due to its closer proximity to Earth in its orbital path. Supermoon events were also witnessed in Asia and Australia. And still to come on DD India News Hour. We'll be talking about the elevation of India-Malaysia partnership with the Veera Sikri, who served as India's High Commissioner to Malaysia, in just a bit. Also, India's Supreme Court sets up a national task force to ensure safety of medical professionals following what happened in West Bengal.
Complex issues, hidden agendas, twists and turns, strategic games. We think all dots are linked. We just need to connect them. Join me every week as I connect the dots to unravel hidden designs in statecraft, mysteries, and decode issues that matter to you. Watch Connecting the Dots with me at these times on DD India.
Welcome back. You're watching DD India News Hour. I'm Gautam Roy, and before we go any further, take a look at our top stories. India and Malaysia elevate ties to comprehensive strategic partnership. Both nations sign multiple pacts. Trade, investment and defence remain key focus areas. India and Japan hold their third 2+2 dialogue in New Delhi. Security challenges and avenues for enhanced collaboration top the agenda of the meeting. India's Prime Minister Narendra Modi to embark on an official visit to Poland and Ukraine starting on Wednesday. This is the first visit by an Indian PM to Warsaw in 45 years and the first ever to Ukraine. And Russian state agency TASS says over 122,000 people have fled Kursk due to Ukraine's assault, but Russia has made gains in eastern Ukraine. Let's now go back to our top story, where India and Malaysia have elevated their ties after 10 years of them being at one level. They've been made comprehensive. A lot of key pacts have also been inked between India and Malaysia during the Malaysian Prime Minister's state visit to India. It's a 3-day state visit, and to talk about it, we have with us Veena Sikri, former Indian High Commissioner to Malaysia. Good evening to you, Ms. Sikri. What do you make of this visit? Quite a few deliverables this time around.
Yes, I think it's a very important visit. I think, first of all, it's taking place after many years, and there have been some, misunderstandings and crisis situations between India and Malaysia in this year. So I think Prime Minister Anwar Ibrahim deciding to come to Delhi at this time has been a very strong and positive indication of the moving ahead in the relationship. And we've seen that from the outcomes of the visit, and we've seen, for example, that not only the meetings he had, not only the discussions he had, but the outcomes. Now, I think I would like to say that number one, of course, the comprehensive strategic partnership. That's the next level of elevation. So we're going to attach the highest importance to the bilateral relationship. But let's look at the content of the outcomes. For example, I think that the chair of Indian studies to be established at Malaya University is a significant outcome, because it's been a long time coming. We need this study of India to take place in Malaysia. We need the study of Malaysia and ASEAN to take place in India, so that the next generation understands what the relationship is all about. You cannot have CEOs and top businessmen investing in each other's countries until they've had an opportunity to study and to understand during the course of their international relations and other studies about what's going on. So I attach the highest importance to this, because it's a long overdue event. I myself have written a book on India and Malaysia intertwined strands. And one of the responses to that book in Malaysia was there's so much we did not know about the bilateral relationship, the pre-colonial history, the post-colonial history. It's very interesting and important. But in addition to that, we have a lot of agreements on Ayurveda, for example. There's a lot of interest in Malaysia on India's traditional medicines. And now, again, at the university level, you're going to establish the study of Ayurveda. Now, this is important. You're looking always at the next generation. You're not looking at people who are now, let's say in their 50s and 60s, but you're looking at people who are today in university and who are interested in knowing what is going on in India. And we have a whole lot of other cooperation. We had the CEOs Forum, which was held. So we're exploring, as you said, trade and investment is a very important part of the Malaysia-India bilateral relationship. I think among the issues that would have been discussed, let us see, one is that Prime Minister Anwar Ibrahim and Malaysia are interested in joining BRICS. And so they would have discussed about their interest with India. And certainly there's a lot of interest in many countries coming into BRICS. But India has a very specific point on how this expansion should happen, what should be the criteria, and what should be the numbers, and so on. So that's all being worked out. On the other hand, for us, in the next year, Malaysia is the next incoming chairman of ASEAN. Now that's very important for India, but this is a very important aspect of India's Act East policy, that we want to work with the chairman, the ongoing chairman, and in next year is going to be Malaysia. We have a lot of interest in working individually with the ASEAN countries. We have bilateral relations, as you've seen, the Prime Minister of Malaysia is here, but we also want to work with ASEAN as a group. We want to understand each other, whether it's the Indo-Pacific, whether it is, multilateral trade engagements or FTA.
And the trade pact with the ASEAN is also under review, so that needs to be taken forward as well.
Yes. So, the MOU on defense cooperation is old now. It needs to be revived. It needs to be looked at. So there are many areas. And among the ASEAN countries, I think Malaysia is today taking more and more interest, playing a very big role. And we are very interested. And Malaysia is interested in, the trade aspects of Quad, the maritime security aspects of Quad, because that for Malaysia, it's very important. They have a dispute with China on the South China Sea. So although Malaysia takes a very quiet perspective of that, unlike Philippines, which is now taking a very active perspective on that, on the China Sea. So these are all the differences, but it's important for the future chairmanship, for India's incoming interest. And we've seen the visuals you're showing of the CEOs Forum, which is so significant because you've got to attract investments by Malaysia into India, and we've got to get our people to look at investments in Malaysia. Digital infrastructure is very important. That's another area on which agreement has been signed because Malaysia has been keenly following India's developments in the world of IT. They've created a Cyberjaya, next to Putrajaya, the capital of their country, which is the hub of their IT sector, and they want to develop that even further. And they feel that cooperation with India is very important for this. So,
is that where the migration and mobility pact also comes in? Because then there could be a lot of exchange in terms of highly skilled professionals and even entrepreneurs, because there's that bridge of startups to consider too.
Yes, this migration mobility pact is very important because there's a lot of interest from people in India, from different sectors, from different states, to go and work in Malaysia. Malaysia is interested in inviting more and more people to work in Malaysia. But we've seen that countries like, say, Bangladesh, they've had a very unfortunate experience with Malaysia in the question of these mobility pacts. And it's always overtaken by unscrupulous human traffickers, by unscrupulous agents and touts who, send individuals who then get stranded, whose passports are taken away. They don't have place to stay. They don't have money. It's a very, very difficult situation. So I'm glad that India and Malaysia have decided to go to put this on an even keel, to have an agreement on this subject, because otherwise, even between India and Malaysia, this was a very difficult area. And in Malaysia, we used to be besieged with people who had come to Malaysia illegally without telling anybody. And once they're there, they're stranded. They're at the mercy of the touts. And we used to do our best to help them, to rehabilitate them. And if nothing else worked, to get them sent back to India. And we should take it up with many agencies there and groups there. This was a big issue 2 decades ago. And today I'm very glad that India and Malaysia have decided to bring this on a proper keel, which can be a reference point for Indians wanting to work in Malaysia, and not having an ad hoc system that was there earlier. So this is very important because it brings in not only the Ministry of External Affairs, but Ministry of Labour and many other agencies in the state governments. There's a great need for coordination and making sure that there is no exploitation of any kind and fair. But there are a lot of jobs available in Malaysia for which a lot of Indians from different sectors and states are interested. So this is a very important area, and very important that we work on this professionally on a government-to-government basis, and making it easier for the private sector agencies to work together without exploiting of the individuals.
Okay.
So all in all, I think that it's a good visit that has taken place.
Right. And Ms. Sikri, the fact that now there will be a comprehensive partnership, it's been elevated to that level from enhanced. Does that have a direct connotation for the kind of defense cooperation that has been there so far between India and Malaysia? Because we have Hindustan Aeronautics Limited opening their office in Malaysia last year itself.
Yes, defense cooperation has been an area of great interest, and it's been an area of interest for a long time. But actually raising the bilateral relationship to comprehensive strategic relationship definitely gives more focus by each government on the different areas of cooperation, and allows, a greater interest and more intensive relationship to develop. Now, in the area of defense, certainly we need to work out more areas which are of mutual benefit and mutual interest, because this has always been a problem where Malaysia has an interest in some specific areas. Aircraft is one big. You mentioned about HAL, and that's certainly been a great step forward, the opening of the office there. And that would, provide the basis, because very often when you're looking at these areas like defense cooperation, you cannot depend on the routine G2G model, where one embassy is talking to that government and that embassy reports back to the government here, and that takes a very long time, and the dynamics are lost. Malaysia has also always participated in our air shows and has come to Bengaluru very often for the air shows at a very high level. So now when you have this comprehensive strategic partnership, you are going to, allow the public-private partnerships to work out. You're going to allow the PSUs, the public sector undertakings on both sides, to talk directly to each other. And you're going to increase the interest by Malaysian companies to come and invest in India. At one time, Malaysia was very active in India in the roads building sector, infrastructure development sector. And that over the years, because the bilateral relationship was not being so actively developed, that interest by Malaysian companies waned. But now I hope that with this visit by Prime Minister Anwar Ibrahim, he's been finance minister earlier. He's very interested in trade and investment, very interested in developing the economic and commercial links between India and Malaysia. And he's very interested in India and Indian history and civilization. As such. So I think he's the right person to have come at this time, to have worked out these agreements, made it a comprehensive bilateral relationship. And I hope that with the degree of interest will now be more dynamic, and a lot of areas will come out.
Yes, from what I've heard and read, there's a lot of scope for JVs in infrastructure development as well as various projects of renewable energy. But let's also talk about the Indian diaspora there, because it's quite huge. I think the third largest that we have anywhere in the world. And how has that been contributing to ensuring that even in times of turbulence, India and Malaysia relationships have been on an even keel?
The Indian diaspora there is very large. As you said, it's one among the largest anywhere in the world. It's very active and dynamic. And some of the Indian diaspora has done very well. There is the Malaysian, the Malaysian Indian the party, and they have been active at high level. They have ministerial posts. But I think I have always maintained that we have to do much more with the Indian diaspora. And I think the help they need a lot from India is in the level of education, because while the Indian diaspora is large and very interested in education, because many of them may be only Tamil speaking, and even their Malay language, if they've been living in plantations for decades, so their availability and ability to integrate and move upwards in Malaysian society becomes limited. And I think that we can do a lot by sending Tamil and English speaking teachers who could then even integrate more with the way these students can learn. And it's very important even to encourage the study of Tamil language in Malaysia. There is an interest. There are people wanting to do it. We should do it at the university level as well, because the Indian diaspora must have their heritage with them. They must be able to develop their, and Tamil is a beautiful, very ancient language, very beautiful language, very rich literature, ancient literature, among the most ancient and dynamic literatures anywhere in India. And I think there's a lot to be said for encouraging the study of Tamil literature and language in Malaysian universities, which will help the Indian diaspora and also help many people from the Malaysian Chinese and the Malay community to know more about India. So I very much hope that this new chair that has been set up will also include teaching of Tamil language and literature, and give a big boost to this interest. Because we have to be very sensitive about, the Indian diaspora there. They have problems. They have problems of integration. They have problems of language.
Okay.
And they have problems where there's, the discrimination of some kinds are there, which are built in. We also have to discuss all these very freely with them and with other agencies and take it up. I've always maintained that, because this is the only way to create a broader area of empathy and understanding between the two governments.
Okay, let's hope that work takes place on those accounts as well as this relationship goes forward in an elevated mode. Thank you so much for joining us and talking about it, Veena Sikri. Thank you.
Bye. Thanks.
Now, India's top court, while hearing a suo motu plea on Tuesday in connection with the rape and murder of a trainee doctor in Kolkata's hospital, has set up a 10-member national task force to make recommendations on prevention of violence and safe working conditions for medical professionals. The court has also directed the National Task Force to submit an interim report within 3 weeks and the final report within 2 months. Terming the incident as horrific, India's top court came down heavily on the West Bengal government over the delay in filing an FIR in the matter. The Supreme Court also directed the CBI, the Central Bureau of Investigation, to file a status report by the 22nd of this month on the investigation in the Kolkata rape and murder case. The court has urged protesting doctors to resume work, saying their concern is being received with utmost importance. And India's Ministry of Health and Family Welfare has written a letter to the heads of the central government hospitals and institutes, including the All India Institute of Medical Sciences in Delhi, to enhance security measures across all central government healthcare facilities. Now, the Nudge Institute launched the 5th edition of the flagship Livelihoods Summit Charcha 24 at the India Habitat Centre in New Delhi on Tuesday. The 3-day event will see participation from leading stakeholders in the development sector, including representatives from government, markets and civil society, to foster dynamic discussions on building a strong foundation for resilient livelihoods. The first day of the summit featured notable attendees, including G20 Sherpa Amitabh Kant. The G20 Sherpa highlighted and hailed rapid digitization in India.
The big ticket reform which the government carried out has been in terms of the extent of digitization of the Indian economy. Every Indian has an Aadhaar. Then between 2015 to 2017, we have opened 550 million bank accounts. We link them up with both Aadhaar and mobile numbers, which enabled us to do fast payments. And we do today about close to 50% of the fast payments in the world. China is next with just about 25%. And then from fast payment, you had a number of startups which started giving credit. Then you have a number of startups which took stock market to Tier 2, Tier 3 rural areas.
And still to come on DD News Hour, the first test flight of India's human-rated Gaganyaan rocket is set for December 2024. And Samoan batter Darius Visa breaks the men's T20 international record for most runs in one over.
The World Wildlife Organization tells us that over 3 billion people across the globe rely on seafood. There are efforts being made to preserve our marine ecosystem. So let's dive right in.
The course of the river was getting shrinked in the upstream areas. And when there is no freshwater flow, the river Ichamoti only survives in the downstream areas, and it has become, in our terminology, we call it a tidal inlet.
Habitat from so many places in the world, and people didn't even know that it had happened.
Mussels that live at the bottom of the lake have this large effect on the biology of the entire lake.
This is the poster that we provide to people on our fish walks. So they can just look at this and identify which are the fish in season, and when we give them the test to go out and identify sustainable fish.
It's worrying because rising temperatures cause the water to expand, and with it, the sea level to rise.
Welcome back. You're watching DD India News Hour. I'm Gautam Roy. Now, in response to the escalating global Mpox outbreak, the Indian government has increased security measures at airports, ports and borders with Bangladesh and Pakistan, instructing authorities to closely screen international travellers for symptoms of the virus. This enhanced vigilance aims to bolster India's defence against the spread of Mpox as worldwide cases continue to surge. However, India's Director General of Health Services, Dr. Atul Goyal, has said that Mpox disease is self-limiting and 98% of the cases can heal within 3 to 4 weeks.
The zoonotic infectious disease, which usually is limited to certain parts of Africa, mostly in the Democratic Republic of Congo. The disease is self-limiting, no specific drugs are available, and 97 to 98% cases actually subside. They are self-limiting, they heal within a period of 3 to 4 weeks. So I believe there is nothing to panic, because so far India has not reported a case, and the assessment by the JMG group and which is conducted by NCDC is that the risk of large spread in India is unlikely as of now.
Australia and Indonesia have signed a treaty-level defence cooperation agreement which allows Australian and Indonesian militaries to operate from each other's countries. In a joint conference in Canberra with Indonesia President-elect Prabowo Subianto, Australian Prime Minister Anthony Albanese said the deal will be a vital plank for the two countries to support each other's security, which is vital to both the countries. but also to the stability of the region that these two countries share.
This historic treaty will bolster our strong defence cooperation by deepening dialogue, strengthening interoperability and enhancing practical arrangements. It will be a vital plank for our two countries to support each other's security, which is vital to both countries, but also to the stability of the region that we share.
The Education Ministry of Bangladesh has cancelled all the remaining higher secondary certificate and equivalent exams. The decision has come in response to demands from several hundred students who stormed the Secretariat on Tuesday. On the 30th of June, the exams began across the country. After that, all exams scheduled for the 18th of July were postponed due to the quota reform protest. After that, the government postponed the exams 3 more times. Gai Jatra is celebrated in Kathmandu's Basantapur Darbar Square on Tuesday. It's an annual festival that carries significant cultural and religious meaning as it honors those who've passed away in the past year. The origin of the celebration goes back to the reign of the Malla rulers when the Malla queen mourned the untimely death of a son. In an exclusive conversation with DD India, ISRO chairperson Dr. S. Somnath has shared progress on India's ambitious human space mission Gaganyaan. He confirmed that the first test flight of India's human-rated Gaganyaan rocket is set for December 2024.
About 4 or 5 years we have been working on this program for building a rocket which will be human-rated, building the craft that is called the Gaganyaan craft, the crew module, and the associated complex systems, a crew escape system and the intelligence in the rocket which are required to carry out this mission. I can tell you that we have reached the threshold of completing the rocket ready. The rocket is already completed the human rating and is at Satish Dhawan Space Center for ready for launch. The crew module and the rest of the elements are new developments. Of course, this has gone through certain development process. We did some missions in the recent times showcasing how the crew escape can really happen. The flight item is now finally undergoing the integration, and still there are some milestones to cross, like the development of crew. For example, environmental control life support system is under development and many such smaller elements. So the first mission we are undertaking without crew inside, but with a robot which will be replicating the human flight scenarios and do the measurements. Vyomitra, of course. Humanoid, yes. So the crew module, the crew escape system and other elements will come to launch complex by next 2 months or so, and we will be ready for the first mission, the unmanned mission, uncrewed mission to space by December this year.
And talking about India's first National Space Day on the 23rd of August, the ISRO chief said today India's space story is about both milestone achievements like Chandrayaan 3 as well as becoming relevant in everyday life of people.
First National Space Day have its prominence so that it has to get embedded into the minds of the people that we are going to this. So that's why it is important. See, we have all the time telling that we are touching the lives of the people. And when we do so, the reason for going to moon has always been questioned. And the connection between these two are very, very evident today, because it is inspiring people, it is inspiring youngsters, it is also bringing in new talents and technology into the domain of the space. So traditionally we have been working with people serving the humanity, like in disaster management, natural resource mapping, communication. Now today we are into the space, looking at moon and Mars and beyond the universe. Yes.
You're watching DD India News Hour, and time now to get you all the sporting updates as well. Now, Samoan batter Darius Wissa has broken the men's T20 international record for most runs in 1 over against Vanuatu in the T20 World Cup East Asia Pacific Region qualifier in Apia on Tuesday. Wissa smashed 6 sixes to score 39 runs in an over. He was helped with 3 no balls from Sima Nalen Nipiko. It surpassed the famous 36-run feat achieved by Yuvraj Singh, Kieron Pollard, Nicholas Pooran, Dipendra Singh and Rohit Sharma along with Rinku Singh. Wisner finished with a score of 132 off 62 balls, thus becoming the first Samoan batter to score a T20 international century. Samoa restricted Vanuatu to 164 for 9 to win the game by 10 runs. Staying with cricket, the Women's T20 World Cup scheduled for October has been moved to the United Arab Emirates from Bangladesh, which has been rocked by political turmoil and violence in recent weeks. World Cricket's governing body, the ICC, said on Tuesday that a number of participating countries had issued travel advisories for Bangladesh, effectively preventing the country from hosting the tournament. Bangladesh's Prime Minister Sheikh Hasina fled the country earlier this month amid the protests, and an interim government led by Mohammed Yunus has taken charge. The Women's T20 World Cup, scheduled from the 3rd of October till the 20th, will be the 9th edition of the Global Championship with 10 countries involved. And that's all we have for this edition of DD India News Hour, but let us know your thoughts on the news of the day. For those on the go, you can get all the latest news and updates from India and across the world on DD India's mobile app. It's available on both Android and iOS platforms. You can scan the QR code on the screen and download the app now. And we'll be back with more news as it breaks here on DD India. I'm Gautam Roy, and from all of us here in Delhi, thanks for watching DD India News Hour.